You know, you always, as my colleague Mr. Donald said, the rhetoric that you hear in committees are sometimes really remarkable. Want to regulate books. The federal government hasn't done that. That's happening at the state level. And yeah, you know what we want to regulate? I don't know, explicit pornography in elementary schools? Yeah, I'm all for banning those kind of books in an elementary school. It's really astounding. Limited government, low taxes, reasonable regulation. This is why I ran for office in the first place, because I believe in those three things. We heard earlier that we're anti-regulation. That is absolutely patently absurd. We are for reasonable regulation because there's also such thing as over-regulating. And as a small business owner, I take particular umbrage with that because I started with absolutely nothing. It is an American dream story kind of thing. And many members of Congress have done that. And you get crushed if you're a small guy or gal trying to start a business with sometimes regulation. It's a very dangerous thing to be very cutting. I just think that we need to address that because really hearing some of the socialist Marxist talking points over and over again is just a beating. And I really try to talk about substantive things here and not just constantly attack our friends across the aisle. So as the chairman of the Economic Growth, Energy, and Regulatory Subcommittee, we're no stranger to regulations and the avalanche that's been unleashed by the Biden administration. Under Joe Biden, agencies across the government have been issuing crippling and costly regulations at a record pace. This is actually happening, and it's real, and it has real consequences, and it costs the American taxpayer and the American citizen more in the long run. Because it's philosophical. Do you trust unelected government bureaucrats, or do you trust the American people more? I trust the American people more, and I'll default to that every day. Again, I'm not saying we need to live in a world sans, absent of regulation, but we need to be reasonable about it. That's one of the reasons why my home state of Texas and Florida and North Dakota, states like that, are booming and successful because we understand that concept, that there needs to be a balance between entrepreneurialism and business and the environment and protections for consumers. There needs to be a balance. And that's why other states like Illinois and New York and California are bleeding opportunity in business and people. Because people, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, vote with their feet. And that's why you got one more electoral vote and we got two, because we're doing it the right way. And people don't move to Texas for our majestic mountain vistas or our refreshingly cool August afternoons. The Californians got all that. They're doing it because they want opportunity and prosperity and to live the American dream. So according to the Foundation for Government Accountability, Joe Biden has issued more than $200 billion in new regulations in his first year in office. $2 billion. So I got just a couple of questions from very smart people that are visiting with us today as witnesses. Professor Mulligan and Mr. White, some of the most substantial things that were impacted by more regulations or low-income communities get to have to bear the brunt of that, unfortunately, whether it be through higher electric bills or vehicle costs, and they don't have a lot of margin of error, as well as retirees and investors through climate disclosures and ESG rules impacting returns. What are some of the examples of downstream impacts of excessive regulation? Professor, if you want to go first.
Higher prices. And in my testimony, it was figure 2, I showed how the earlier Congress had deregulated telecommunications, and the big drop in the price of your cell phone plan and your home internet plan, which is a big part of the budget for lower income families. It was such a big thing that the Federal Reserve was puzzled, why is inflation going down? And it's because one thing that this previous Congress had done to deregulate and make it easier for a wider range of choice for internet consumers.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying choice actually brings down the cost and free market competition?
It was competition, yes.
Interesting. Do you think these increased regulatory burdens, so they clearly increase prices, but what do you think, does it have a disproportionate impact to small businesses, these kind of regulatory burdens?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Often the regulations more or less prohibit what the new guys are trying to create and enshrine what the incumbent companies are making.
Yeah. And, we're a country of the underdog, and we want to see, a lot of the time, big businesses get besmirched, but they were at one point a small business, and they just did things well. And then, to keep them on their toes, we've also seen very large corporations fail eventually due to competition and not keeping up with trends and market and what have you. Last question, Professor Mulligan. Understand that your research has found that if the Biden administration continued the Obama administration's regulatory pace for a full 8 years, the cumulative costs on rulemaking could exceed, is that right, $60,000 a household?
Yeah, 60,000 per household.
That's remarkable. Mr. Chairman, I yield back. Thanks.